It's the start of the month. You know what that means. April, in terms of reading, incredible month. I had a great month. I only had one DNF, and I'm averaging about one DNF a month, which honestly is fine because I'm trying new things. I'm trying things I haven't read before. Some things are great, some things I'm not loving, and life is too short to be reading books that we don't enjoy, okay? That's the motto for the day. I'm very, very wise. In April, I read 6 books and I DNF'd 1 book. These 6 books included 1 historical fiction, 1 short story collection, which was new, 1 poetry, 1 mystery, and 2 romantasy. Look at me go, okay? And then I'll get into what the DNF was later. Let me take you in order. So the first book that I read in the month of April was An Echo in the Darkness by Francine Rivers. This was the second book in the Mark of the Lion series. And it was fine. It was fine. So the way that the Mark of the Lion series sort of works is that it's almost like a duology, and then there's a third book that follows one of the other characters that you see in the first book. And I guess you get his completion of his character arc, because he doesn't really show up in the second book at all. So the first and second book in the Mark of the Lion series follow Hadassah and Marcus and the Valerian family. So An Echo in the Darkness sort of completed that, Marcus's character arc, and I'm pretty sure Hadassah's. I haven't read the third one, so I have no idea if Hadassah comes back up in book 3, but we see sort of the completion of the Valerian family story arc. So this book, I really enjoyed the first book. I can't remember what I gave it. I think it was 4.25, something like that. I really enjoyed it. The second book kind of fell flat for me. There was something that Marcus did in the first book that to me would have been that's it, done. And I get that this is ancient Rome and times were different, but for me, there's just that's just something that I wouldn't be able to get over. And it was sort of mentioned in the second book, but not in the way that I would have done it. I would have expected intense groveling. I don't know. I just feel like Marcus's character, he did have a real character arc. He really went from one side to the other. But at the same time, I'm just sort of okay, but can we actually sit down and have a legit conversation about this? Because that was wild. And I think that we need to discuss that. There just seemed to be a lot of forgiveness just being thrown around, which is fine. Forgiveness is good, but forgiveness without a frank conversation seems maybe not the right move. People needed some intense therapy that I don't think existed in ancient Rome. And there was a lot of cliches, that I was just sort of okay, sure, great, love that, but also really. And there was also a couple of side characters that I was oh, these people just straight up disappeared. And I want to know what happens to them. Maybe they show up in the third book, which I will get to. I just after the second book, I needed a break. I needed a break from ancient Rome and all of the craziness. So all in all, I gave An Echo in the Darkness 3.5 stars because it was good. Listen, I was what's gonna happen? But at the same time, I was okay, people, it was bordering on sort of fairy tale status of love and affection. And I was we're in ancient Rome. Okay, let's be real about this for a second. I digress. 3.5, it was fun. I'll read the third one, but there was just some things that I found a little bit too far-fetched for me, and that's okay. Now, next is a collection of short stories that I have not really read before. I don't gravitate towards short stories, but there is a Canadian author who I've been hearing a little bit about, and so I thought, I'll try it out. He writes a lot of horror, which, as you know, wimp, don't read horror. But I wanted to give some of it a try. So he had a collection of short stories, and it's called Echoes, and the author is John Haas. And I really enjoyed it. but not necessarily for the reason that you might think. The stories were really interesting. It was a mix of like mystery and horror, and the horror ones like weren't that creepy, so I was fine with that. But the thing that I really loved was that at the end of each short story, he would sort of write like a reflection on how he wrote it, whether it got published, and whether he got paid for it to be published. So I really liked the behind the scenes sort of look into publishing, which is something that I don't really see all that often. And he was like, yeah, I tried to get this short story published for like 12 years and no one wanted it. I just loved it. I just loved that and I thought it was fun. So there was one story about a man who made a deal with the devil, and I can't remember the name of it, but I just like, it was so funny. And like some of his stories like really did have twists that I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I never see it coming, but I didn't see that coming. And this was also on Kindle Unlimited. So if you want to have just like a fun little collection of short stories, it's like 180 pages. It's not that long. But if you want to just like have a fun old time and something that you can dip in and out of, highly recommend Echoes by John Haas. All in all, really enjoyed it. 4 stars. Oh, the next one, Diabound by Sable Sorensen. I'm not gonna lie to you, when I finished that book, I really did consider whether it was a 5-star. I decided that it wasn't, but I sat there for a hot minute and I was like, did I just have my first 5-star of the year? Mayhaps, but no. I decided it wasn't a 5-star. However, I absolutely loved it. It had been a second since I had read like a true romantasy. So I was like, you know what? I've heard really good things about this. It's on Kindle Unlimited. Let's see how this goes. Oh my goodness, so good. And it definitely was sort of a Fourth Wing meets Hunger Games situation. And I absolutely loved it. I had a whale of a time. There were twists and turns everywhere. And I was like, what do you mean? What's happening here? And once again, it was on Kindle Unlimited. So I'd had it downloaded on my Kindle for a while, but I just hadn't been in a romantic mood. And then after I finished Echoes, I was like, now's the time. Now's the time. Let's get stuck into this. It was a long book. It was a long book, but it was great. The thing that I really liked about Diabound was that because it had been so long since I had read like a true romantasy that I loved, I was like, maybe romantasy is just not for me anymore. And I'm sort of like, my tastes are changing. Nope. I am still firmly in my romantasy era. This book reminded me why I loved fantasy so much. And that's a tall order. So I was very, very, very impressed. Now, the reason I'm not giving it a 5-star, there is one plot point, and I won't say what it is because it's a massive spoiler, but there is one plot point in the book where I was just sort of like, okay, that's a little far-fetched for me, which I love how I'm saying this is far-fetched, but it's literally about people who ride wolves. So like, we're already like not in the realm of reality, but I digress. There was just one plot point where I was like, like I don't know about that. Like I get that it was important to move the story along and it was something like very out there, but I was just sort of like, I didn't love it. However, I do highly, highly recommend this book because it's just a fun time. Like it's one of those books where when you read it, you're like, that is a true romantasy book. Sometimes I find that romantasies are like super, super romance heavy. This one had such a good plot and great side characters. The character arcs have been really interesting. And I was just sort of like, oh my gosh. And there was a plot twist. Oh my goodness, I totally forgot about the plot twist. The plot twist was so insane. Okay, it was insane to me, but I remember sitting there reading the plot twist going, shut up. No way. Because again, I didn't see it coming because I never see anything coming. And that just like was part of why I loved this, because that's like what a true romantasy is. Like, yes, there's romance, and yes, there's like push and pull and relationship dynamics, but there's also like a great plot and things just keep happening and it's kind of like you get a whiplash. You know what I mean? So overall, I gave this book 4.75. It was so close to a 5-star, but it just like wasn't quite there for me. And the next one comes out, Furybound comes out in May this month? Or am I making that up? I don't remember, but whenever it comes out, I'll be reading it, that's for sure, because I need to find out. I need to find out what happens. Then, because I had finished Diabound and I was like, oh my gosh, romantasy, give me more. Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. Oh my gosh. Was it as good as Diabound? No. Did I still have a great time and I totally understand what the hype is about? Absolutely. Now, this book did start off a little slow for my liking, but I did realize that it's like a saga. There's 4 books, the 4th one is coming out this year. And I understand that, especially with the type of world that we're in, it required a lot of world building. So fine. And by like the second half, there was a lot going on. So I feel like the second half sort of made up for the first half. I also talked about this in a previous video, so I won't get too far into it, but sometimes I found the main character a little frustrating, where I was just like, girl, like, what did you expect? Like, of course this was what it was gonna be, you know? But I digress. We all have our faults. And really, really enjoyed it. Also, and I said this in my previous video, I had a theory and it was right. Color me shocked, okay? You're shocked, I'm shocked. What a ride that was. Because when it happened, I was like, did I just guess that? Did I see that coming? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Later on, I did get too big for my britches, but at the time, I felt on top of the world. I rode that high for a while. I will definitely be continuing this series. I have the second one downloaded, but I have way too many library books right now. So I've got to get going on those, all right? All in all, I gave Spark of the Everflame 4.25. I'm telling you, this was a really good reading month for me. Almost every book was over 4 stars. The next book that I read was Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. This is my first Holly Jackson book. I've never read any of her works before because I know she does a lot of YA mysteries. And I do have another one of her YA mysteries with me right now that I want to read. I just haven't got to it yet. So this was my first introduction to Holly Jackson, and I really, really enjoyed her writing style. I really enjoyed the story concept. So if you don't know what Not Quite Dead Yet is about, it follows this girl whose name I've completely forgotten. What's her name? Jazz? Is her name Jazz? Jay? I've totally forgotten her name, but it follows this girl who on Halloween night is attacked, and when she wakes up in the hospital, she's told that there's this tiny little bone in her skull that's like almost right in the center of your brain, and it's fractured and a piece has come off and it's resting on one of the main arteries that goes into the brain. Essentially, she has 7 days to live because it's going to form a, what's it called? An aneurysm. There we go. It's essentially going to form an aneurysm. At some point, that aneurysm is going to burst and she's going to die. So she has 2 options: have a surgery where she has like a 10% chance of living, or just have the 7 days and then you're going to die anyway. And she decides, nope, I'm not doing the surgery. I am just going to spend the last 7 days of my life trying to catch the person who killed me. What a cool concept. And I ate this book up. I really did. After my Spark of the Everflame theory situation, I was like, worry not, detectives. I'm on the case. I know who did it. I was wrong, obviously. But it was so well done. The banter was so good. And there were so many twists and turns. I was like, it was this person. It was this person. It was this person. It ended up being not a single person that I thought it was. Can't win them all. Really enjoyed it. I definitely want to read more of her writing because it was still like really easy to read. I know that this was her first like adult mystery. The only difference was that there were swear words. So I'm like, everything else was still like super easy to read, really simple language, but that didn't detract from like the pace of the story, the complexity of the story. It was just following someone who was over the age of 18 and could swear. That was pretty much all of it. Absolutely devoured this book. I have recommended it to so many people. So I'm recommending it to you now. This book was also a 4.25 star read for me, and I will definitely be reading more of Holly Jackson. I'm super excited. I have the reappearance of Rachel Price sitting on my bedside table right now, ready for me to get on the case. It is a good thing I'm not a detective. Let me tell you that. The last book that I read in the month of April was Crazy Mad by A.J. Dolman. And this is actually a poetry collection written by a Canadian author who explores the concepts of queerness and identity. And I just really, really enjoy reading poetry from people who have lives and experiences so vastly different from my own. And I do think poetry is a really great way to empathize with others because it's such an emotional and vulnerable form of art. So I don't rate poetry because of that, but I really did enjoy it. Some of the poems I just don't think I was in the headspace for, but there were a few where I was like, oh, that hit close to home. So I highly recommend reading poetry as a means of understanding different people, different lived experiences. That was just a really, really great short read. It was like 80 pages or something. But yeah, and poetry is a really great thing where you can like pick it up and put it down and read like 1 or 2 a day if you want. I have a bad habit of just sort of like reading it all the way through, and I should probably not do that. Lastly, the DNF. I tried to read Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. And you know what really got me about this book is that there were no chapters. And I'm one of those people that like, I can't just like stop in the middle of a page. I have to get to the end of a chapter. So because there was no chapters and it was still like 160 pages, I wasn't just gonna sit and read that in one sitting. And the writing style was also like very stream of consciousness. And it just wasn't for me. It was a very weird way of writing, and like maybe I'll pick it up again in a few years, but that definitely got sent to the DNF graveyard in my reading journal because it just wasn't for me. I just could feel myself getting into a slump because of it, because I didn't want to pick it up. So, and what do I always say? Life's too short to be reading books you don't enjoy. So I said, you know what? Sorry, Virginia Woolf, but not today. However, I did think that Mrs. Dalloway was like 18 and turns out she was 52. So it really, maybe this whole thing was a me problem. I digress. Now, did I read a single book from my TBR for last month? No, I didn't. I did try to read The Ghosts of Rome by Joseph O'Connor, and I soft DNF'd it. I can see myself reading it, but I just wasn't in the headspace for that book at that time because I was also trying to read Mrs. Dalloway. So I think that was like a my fault thing. So I'm gonna leave that for now and I'll come back to it. And I didn't read any of the other ones. So at this point, like, is it worth doing a TBR jar? Yes, because it's fun. Even if I don't read any of the books, I think it's fun. But I think what I'm gonna do this time is when I do the TBR picks, I'm just gonna pick one book and that's the one we're gonna go for because I feel like I take too long and I'm trying to cut down on the length of these videos because maybe people just aren't interested, but I like doing it, so I wanna keep doing it. So we need to have a compromise, okay? Relationship is always about compromise. So I'm gonna pick 3 books for the month of May, and we are gonna hope that I'm gonna get to at least one of them because one of my goals for 2026 is to read 10 books off of my physical TBR, and I have read 2. So, yikes. Alrighty, first book. What's it gonna be? Oh, a male author. Okay, hold on. The first book that is on my May TBR is Catch and Kill, Lies, Spies, and a Conspiracy to Protect Predators. This was actually in my library's like used bookstore section. So I got it for really cheap. And one of the things that I want to do is read more nonfiction. I've read 1 this year already, but my goal is to read 3. So this is by Ronan Farrow, and it's the winner of the Pulitzer Prize. And Farrow is an investigative journalist, and he's trying to uncover like the abuse that goes on in Hollywood, and weird things start happening to him because people are trying to stop him from finding out what's going on. And this book is sort of his account of all of the weird things that have been happening. I love nonfiction like this, where you get like a firsthand account of how it was for that person. And investigative journalism is always something that I found fascinating. I do not have the stomach for it, but I'm really intrigued to see what his experience was. So this is the first book for May, Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrow. All right, next one. Ooh. Oh, a book with magic. Okay. Does magic include like mythology? Or no? Or is it just like straight magic? Let me see. All right, the next book on the May TBR with magic is Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. This follows a woman, it says it starts with a class in an old movie theater. Folklore 517, local legends and urban myths, taught by a woman called the Professor. Holland St. James has always been convinced that magic is real. When she tracks down a local legend named the Watchman, she can supposedly tell you when you'll die. The world finally makes sense, except that the Watchman tells her that she will die at midnight tomorrow unless she finds an ancient object called the alchemical heart. And this is her trying to find it. So I don't think I've read any Stephanie Garber. I did try to read Once Upon a Broken Heart. It wasn't really for me. And I know that that's like blasphemy for some people, so I'm sorry. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see how this goes, what this is like. Also, this is like got a sprayed edge. It's the, ooh, how pretty is that? Okay, well, if I wasn't convinced before, I am now. I've had mixed reviews about this book, so I want to see for myself. And it doesn't look like it's too long, like the writing's pretty big. So this is book number 2, Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. And the last book. Here we go. A mostly blue cover. Oh, I did pick a book that had, okay. Mostly blue, mostly blue. Oh, I'm so close to this now. Hold on. Okay, I'm cheating. I'm cheating a little bit. I just got this, The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. It's the second book in the Thursday Murder Club series, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm already halfway through. Is that cheating? Is that cheating if I'm already reading it? You know what? I'm gonna add it because technically it's on my physical TBR. However, I will also add The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe because this is very blue. It's very blue. The front's not super blue, but like the spine's blue, the back is blue. So these together make the third prompt. How's that? Is that a good compromise? Again, relationships are all about compromise. I think that's fine. I make the rules. I think it's fine. Alrighty. So these are the books for the May TBR. Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrow, Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber, The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman, and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. I think this is fun because we have like a nonfiction, I guess like magical realism, fantasy, mystery, and then just like a full fantasy. But it's like a kid's book and it's fun, you know? I'm not mad at this. I'm not mad at this at all. This has been fun. This has filled my cup a little bit and I feel good about this. This video is definitely gonna be late because I'm recording it on the day that it's supposed to go out. Yikes. But I will put it out as soon as I can. And until next week, I hope your book is good and I hope you have unhinged opinions about it. I'll see you next week. Bye.